Hey everyone, welcome to the Ceres Podcast. I'm Stelios, today's co-host and the founder and director of Ceres. Today in our The News Review segment, I'm joined by my regular co-host, David Nicolaou from Auckley Friary in Auckley, near Doncaster. But today we're also joined by my good friend, good customer and regular listener, Charlie Collins from Frydales in Leicester. We are always mixing things up a little, so if you fancy coming on, why not get in touch? Don't forget to join the discussion at the Ceres Podcast discussion group on Facebook. We do want conversations to happen there. We're always trying to discuss the episodes and so on, but people end up just texting me. But it's best to throw it that way because then I can get involved and others can get involved. Don't be afraid of opinions. We're all here to have a good laugh and to work, so we might as well mix them all up together. Today's episode is sponsored by Ceres Deep Fry Cleaner, the ultimate solution to grease, grime and stubborn cardon buildup. This powerful non-caustic cleaner is designed to keep your fries in tip-top condition, whether it's a fish and chip range, a tabletop fryer or even a donut fryer. Say goodbye to stubborn fried-on carbon and polymerization as the Ceres Deep Fry Cleaner gets rid of all of that, saving you valuable time. Plus, whilst you're there, it reduces the need for strenuous scrubbing and minimises employee exposure to hot surfaces. So whilst you're there, here's what it does. It adds years of life to your frying range. It increases oil life, improves recovery time, removes carbon buildup, saves on gas and electricity. It basically makes you serve better food, which is crispier and tastier. To get your Ceres Deep Fry Cleaner, visit www.ceres.shop for free next day delivery across mainland UK. We also ship to Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, all the British Isles, numerous European countries, so don't settle for less. Choose Ceres Deep Fry Cleaner and keep your fries in tip-top prime condition. I want to say a big congratulations to Martin Robinson, who won a pallet of natural batter mix worth £1,300 in last month's email competition. Remember, to be in with a chance of winning any of these great prizes, you need to be on our mailing list. We keep all the competitions off social media to avoid those pesky scammers that copy your page and then try and fiddle money out of people. So sign up and you could be our next big winner. But also, we have great special offers on our email as well. So you're missing out if you are not on there. At Ceres, we're more than just about batter mix. We're here to support your business with top-notch products, insightful podcasts, brilliant articles, if I do say so myself. All of these designed to supercharge your success. We'd love to hear what's happening in your world and what projects are going on. So please let us know. Do get in touch. Email us at any time. Stay connected with us on social media and subscribe to our mailing list through the episode show note link. And whilst you're there, join our podcast discussion group on Ceres. Now, on Facebook, shall I say, there's a lot to say on these things, you know. So yes, it's on Facebook, Ceres Podcast discussion group on Facebook. Now, let's dive into today's episode of the News Review with my good friend co-host David Nicolaou and my other good friend Charlie Collins from Frydales in Leicester. Hi everyone, welcome to the Ceres Podcast, the News Review.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
David, you're a regular, so I don't really need to be that nice to you because you're always here. But we do have...
Well, thank you.
We do have our co-host Charlie. You've got to be nice to him, you know, he's very sensitive, our Charlie.
Which bit?
Which
bit's sensitive, Charlie?
Yeah, I can be. Please be nice to me today, especially David. I know what you're like.
Yeah, we do.
Say nothing.
We do know what he's like. He's terrible. But I just want to say, sorry for not pumping out lots of articles lately. We've all been trying to put them out, but there just hasn't been much in the sort of like hospitality news, because apparently there was something big going off in the UK. So
Yeah, it's like there's like a change of like management at the top or something.
yeah, exactly. So it is just one of them, and the news stories are starting to come out again now. You can see the system's kicking back in for all the the farming news is coming back, hospitality news is coming back. So yeah, I think we should be.
Everyone's digested the good news, haven't they? And started the cycle again.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we should crack on today. I think I just wanted to say thank you, Charlie, for joining me and David. We do hope to have David as a regular and me as a regular, but obviously as we all start going away on our holidays, we wanted to mix in different people even when we're not on holiday. So yeah, we hope to have different guests as well.
It's always nice to be on, so always nice to be asked, so happy to share an opinion.
Mixes everything up, doesn't it, as well?
Exactly.
Before we start, can I just draw a line under a thread that's been running through our news articles, and that's the lady that bit the man's thumb off.
Oh, I knew you was going to say this.
I've got to put this.
You've never mentioned it, David.
Right, but do you promise to actually put this to bed?
I will never speak to her again. Never speak of her again, unless I obviously go to Winchester and order a pizza, and then I don't know. I might bump into her. But yeah, she's been sentenced. Okay. She got 18 months. Oh no, she got 16 months. Suspended for 18 months. She's back out on the bike. Okay. So,
Charlie, have you kept up with this story?
Have you kept up with that story?
Yeah, I have. I think everyone who's ever listened to one of David's pods has heard about this woman.
Yeah. I am slightly enchanted with her.
I think the moral of the story is don't put anything on your body through a hole when you're not sure of what's on the other side. I think
every young person can take something from that, can't they?
Yes, I just think whether it's a helmet, a glory hole, just don't.
That's what,
I just thought I'd say it because I think
helmets and glory holes. Is this the level that we've now descended to?
I just thought I'd just talk about the elephant in the room here because I could see everyone's face sort of descending that way. But
don't put anything in a hole that you don't know where it's going.
Well, it's common sense, isn't it?
Or who it belongs to.
Look, in all fairness, the story's funny. It makes me laugh, and the fact that you've probably almost got to kill someone to not get a job on Deliveroo or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
But the fact is, his thumb went through her helmet, so he can do all the sad faces he wants. They just,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like someone putting their hand through your window in the car.
It is, or someone trying to get in through your letterbox at home, and you sort of hit it with something.
On accident, of course.
Yes, I accidentally found myself with my arm in the letterbox, and they broke my hand. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I've got. The more it's gone on, actually, the less sympathy I've had with the guy.
I just thought it was a weird story from the beginning, to be honest.
It was brilliant.
I'm genuinely. I don't know about you, Charlie,
gold.
but I'm looking forward to the movie of it.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think David more so than all of us.
Well, I'm directing it, so...
So he's constantly ramping it up, really. This is what he's doing, isn't it?
It's just stealth marketing.
He's clearly trying to get the funding together from the Weinstein brothers.
Yeah. It's going to be either called Delivery Gate or Thumb Gate. It's one or the other.
Well, on that note, David, you have promised that this is the last time you talk.
This is now done.
Yeah.
Unless she does something else, and of course I'm going to be duty-bound to speak about it.
Duty-bound, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's an obligation, is it, David?
It is.
A responsibility.
I might go and find her and provoke her a little bit as an agent provocateur, just to see if we can generate some more content.
Excellent. Well, let's move on.
So that's that done.
First article of the day. Charlie, you chose the opinion article, how IKEA and Costco mastered employee retention. Well, IKEA sort of mastered it after getting it wrong. But this article explores how IKEA and Costco have effectively reduced employee turnover through strategic initiatives focusing on enhancing employee satisfaction and retention. I know why I sort of wrote this article, actually. And the main reason was it wasn't just focusing on paying more. I think that's always the first answer. And I think what they wanted to do initially was identify their problems and focus on those first. But Charlie, what drew you to this article?
Well, I think what drew me to this is a big issue that we have in fish and chips is staff retention, and we often all do it very wrong. So I think that this article really highlighted a few of the facts that we can all do. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but often, and I know this happens at shop after shop after shop, we're in a rush to employ people. They come in, they have a trial shift, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, and then you go, yeah, thumbs up or thumbs down. It's as simple as that. And then you get them in, and then you expect them to be able to serve. There's a training plan, but is it always met? Is it always followed? And it seemed like IKEA specifically had really managed to give people a path. They had a buddy scheme, and they have also paid more, which is something that I think a lot of fish and chip shops could look at. But they've really sweated the small stuff, which I think a lot of us don't.
Yeah, David, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually, because they put in flexible shift patterns. So I presume there's some app that you can go and request flexible shifts, and they were worried that these like weekend shifts wouldn't get filled, but they found out that people wanted to work weekends and late nights because it fitted their lifestyle. So I guess it was just sort of unpacking the problems and then thinking, well, let's just repack them in a different way. But I mean, I can't stand IKEA. I mean, I've got lost more times in IKEA than I care to remember.
Why? You just follow the arrow. There's an
arrow.
No,
but I don't want to follow the arrows. It's like snakes and ladders. I want the shortcut. I want to go through hyperspace to get to the bit I want, and then I end up going back to the beginning, and I get lost. So it's got to be a depressing place to work. I mean, there's no sunlight, is there? It's artificial, and you're in like a pretend house.
Well,
there's plenty of places.
Lots of
them. But there's plenty of places to sit down or even have a sleep, I would imagine, if no one's looking.
I don't see the problem. I'm not a snob when it comes to work. Work is work. You work where you want to work or work where you have to work. I don't see that.
You need to be happy.
I bet they are happy, though. Like every time
they're not, because they lost 60% of the
but I don't think that was just indicative of the place of work.
No.
I think, I saw an article yesterday, and it said
Costco is equally as a depressing place to work in, I think, but the staff retention's huge, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and again, because they've got the good things right, and so I read an article yesterday, and it said how a McDonald's in Leeds got rejected. Well, it got sent to me. It got rejected opening because it's the wrong sort of jobs. Since when is the...
Sorry, explain that.
So a new McDonald's wanted to open. They said, we're going to make so many jobs. The local councillors rejected it because they said it's the wrong type of jobs.
But not enough green recycling going on.
It's just snobbery. Well, it's just snobbery of the highest order.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I mean, that kid who's going to get that job, or that teenager, that adult that's going to get that job, I don't think he's that bothered if he wants to go and work there.
In Nuneaton, where we live, a few years ago, an Amazon wanted to open, and again, all the NIMBYs kicked off saying it's the wrong type of jobs. So they then go 2 miles down, 2 miles down the road to Coventry, where they... I think we digress. I think the key point is is that they've identified weaknesses within their business. And, I thought the buddy system was impressive, implementing a buddy system, because I think when you're in a large organisation, you could easily feel very lost very quickly. And actually having someone that you now report to or work with, it sort of builds confidence in the role.
I mean, I'd agree as well. And I think that it's something that happens in the fish and chip shops as well. I mean, that when you have a server, say they're 16, 17, 18, it's a lot easier to employ someone that they know. They come in, and whilst that does have its challenges, they're often talking and perhaps a little bit too much, but they tend to stay. They tend to stay longer. Whereas if you pull in someone random, they don't always fit the team well, and they often create a little bit of chaos and then leave, or someone else leave because they don't quite get along. But by giving someone a buddy from day one, and you two have to stick together, you're going to create a relationship there, which means they might want to stay.
Yeah, I think that's a real good point, because you're almost forcing a friendship within work. If it blossoms outside of work, that's different. But within work, you've created this fixed relationship. They depend on each other until they no longer do, because at some point you hope they'll make friends or whatever in work. They work well together, and then someone comes in who then needs a buddy, and you think by that point that they should be self-sufficient to some degree. Yeah, I find it quite interesting.
We actually already do that. We have one person that we'll just put them on their shift to train them up for the first few weeks. And that's their person. That if there's any problems, they go to that person. So we already do that. But obviously we've that does have its own problems as well.
Has either of you
especially when that person leaves?
Has either of you ever watched the film about the Boston bombings with Mark Wahlberg?
Yes.
No,
So
I can't.
that's where I first found out that Costco was a really good employer, because there's a person in the film. I think in the film it's Jake Gyllenhaal. Is that how you say his name? I'm not sure. Gyllenhaal. And in the movie, the actor he's playing, he actually goes to Mark Wahlberg's family, who found the bomb, and basically said, "Look, he works for Costco. He's got full cover. He's got this. He's got this. He's got this." And I just Googled it because I thought that maybe it was a fictional aspect of the story. Whereas actually it wasn't. It showed how in America they are classed as one of the best employers. I think in England we probably fall behind a little bit on offering a lot of benefits because, well, the state covers lots of it and then the employer has to pay it because the state tells them to. So they probably feel like, why should I have to do more? So I don't know.
I also think that in England more so is that, you know, when you do these things, say like you buy staff treats or you'd offer different benefits, the first thing they say is, I'd rather not have the benefits, I'd have more pay. When actually, if you do implement the benefits and you do implement the staff treats and things on a night out together, and it does make a difference. It's just the stubbornness of them saying, no, we want more money. Well, actually, when you implement these things, it does help. And whilst they say it doesn't, and it's just for the money, well, the figures speak for themselves, especially with IKEA percentage-wise. It was a ridiculous figure that they managed to turn around.
Yeah, they've gone to 22.4% from 60% in some stores. Imagine losing 60% of your staff. And there's some store in London lost 60% in 1 year.
Yeah,
or 60% turnover, I should say. That's huge, but it's a huge company. And I'd imagine those staff that are leaving aren't leaving in the design department, but they're actually leaving on the shop, on the storefronts, because obviously there's a huge amount that goes on in the background.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
I just think that retail...
The man that shaves the dowels.
I just think it's retail that is probably going to take a beating here. I was at a shop the other day in Scotland, and they said to me, you know, if they have a really busy week or a particularly busy day, they'll close the shutters when they close, obviously, and they'll bring the tables in and they'll just order a big Chinese or a pizza for everybody. And I think you're right, Charlie. I do think these sort of things can just... I don't know, like at Christmas Eve, we used to have a really busy shift. We'd also close and get the beers out for the staff. You know, we'd put them taxis on to get home, or we'd give them a lift home, whichever. I don't know, these little things, I do think they're quite impressive.
It's, for instance, in my shops recently, I've got a fry who used to work for Stelios, Neil, and every time he's on shift, he buys the staff a few treats. Well, I buy the staff a few treats, but it comes from Neil. And I was, you know, it was about £10-15 a week, and I was like, look, Neil, I'm not sure that interested, and you know, not, but it has made a difference. Yeah. You know, he buys these little brownie bars, and every time they're eaten, so they clearly are enjoying them. And over the last few months, you know, the team is getting stronger and happier. Like, they know if they're working on a Saturday, well, you know, they're going to get a beer. You're going to get a bit of chocolate, some ice cream. It's not the greatest shift in the world. It's really hot, you know, and muggy at the moment, but it is making a difference.
Yeah. And it's amazing how a positive effect Costco cookies have.
Yes.
So you go to Costco and bring back a staff like a box of cookies or some pastries or something. And yeah, you're right. Just chuck them on the counter and say, look, you guys, thanks. Here's, you know, help yourself. Have a coffee. You know, have a biscuit. And it's just amazing how the morale lifts up. But it's just, as you know, you know, I think a lot of places are doing these things. You know, I think we're probably subconsciously doing them. We don't realise that
we didn't write it into.
That we're not formally doing it, but we just thought that would be a nice thing to do for them. But yeah,
I think Charlie's right though on something, David. I think if you were to, because we've not made it formal, but I think the minute you took it away, even casually, without realising, I think it would be missed. Like, yes. So one thing we do at the warehouse, we've got like loads of really nice noodle pots, like, because we've only got a kettle at the moment until we get 3-phase. So we've noticed like that they're eating like noodles, they're eating oats. You know, we've even got the DPD guy now joining in on this eating, and because we had a lot of trouble with the DPD guys, you know, nobody wants to come and collect 100 16-kilo boxes. It just wasn't what they signed up for, you know what I mean? So we now say, look, we offer them drinks, we offer them sweets, we offer them coffee, we offer them noodles, mostly the noodles that they don't want because they don't like that flavour, but it doesn't matter, he doesn't know that. And you can see even he now turns up and is like happy to be there, you know what I mean? So I think there's a lot to be said about these little things that can make people feel. And
it just softens the day. You know, it just softens the whole thing up. I mean, on a Friday night, we have a Monica that works with us. She's 75 75, 76, but she looks in her 60s. She's as fit as a fiddle. She will always bring chocolates in for everybody. And at the end of Friday night, I mean, we've been hammered. We're a busy shop. Everyone's a bit low. And then all of a sudden, help yourself out, drink out the fridge, and the chocolate comes out. And, 5 minutes, we all stop, have something to eat, have a bit of chocolate, have a bit of a drink, and then crack on. And it's lovely. The guys look forward to that close sign on the door, and then just have a little break, and it just lifts them. It's a nice gesture, and it costs very little, to be fair. So yeah, hats off to these guys. Hats off to IKEA for what they did.
Yeah, and one thing I'd throw into anybody listening to this actually is that all your staff members' birthday. Yeah.
Yes.
So if that day you said to your other half or the manager or whoever's there's lines, you'll go next door yourself, just go get a cake. It's going to cost £4. Yeah, and you're going to have to get a candle, but just have a cake. Everyone has some cake at the end of the shift. Say happy birthday to David or Charlie or Stelios, whoever it is. I got one in for Matty. And I said to him, I hate it's your birthday next week. He goes, yeah, but I don't celebrate it. I don't like celebrating my birthday. I was like, all right then. And I still come in with a cake. And I was like, we're just going to have a little bit of cake. And, and I think you'd be surprised. I think people might be a little bit embarrassed, but actually I think deep down they'd love the fact that...
Appreciate the fact.
Yeah, and even if it's not a direct thank you from the staff, when you don't do it, it's missed. Yeah. And it definitely helps.
Yeah, you just got to be careful though, because I think I did read an article. I don't want to put all this goodness down now, but I did read an article that someone they got a cake for one of the staff members and she ended up suing them because everyone found out her age and she wasn't too happy. But I actually think that's just an extreme case.
Yeah.
And there was the person that...
Dear me.
Did you read the article that over Christmas someone bought someone a dildo for Secret Santa? That apparently didn't go... Yeah, apparently that didn't go down very well either. Yeah, so she tried to sue, but apparently the point was that their Secret Santa was always meant to be jokey and adulty.
Yeah. What was the price limit then?
You could tell. Is
it an AliExpress special?
You can tell who the Yorkshireman is. You can tell how much.
There's a £10. There's a £10 price limit.
Yeah,
on
but if it was from AliExpress, they would have had to order it in January.
That's right.
So
that's the think ahead, haven't you? If you want to save some money.
So no, moving on though, guys. I think we've done that one. Moving on, David chose an article: "Fakeaways: The New Trend in Cost-Effective Dining." The article examines the rising trend of fakeaways, where people recreate takeaway meals at home for a fraction of the cost, driven by economic factors and a desire for healthier options. David, why did you choose this article?
I just think this is absolutely genius. I mean, I'm going to start with Hawksmoor. So, it's a steak in a box. It's a raw piece of meat in a box at a premium price with some instructions on, and you do it yourself. I mean, you're not recreating anything of the Hawksmoor experience, which we went a couple of years ago at the awards 2023. Me and a few of the friars went and I'd never been before, and it was fabulous. Absolutely one of the best steaks I've ever had, and I eat quite a lot of steak. But what a great way of expanding your offerings by selling the raw product in a shop. I mean, it's no cheaper than a really good piece of sort of meat from our local farm shop, but it comes in a nice box with some instructions and it's a bit jokey. It's brilliant. And like Gourmet Burger Kitchen, you're not going to recreate a burger. I mean, they're selling you a raw burger that's probably a 30% blend of meat and fat, so 7% meat, 30% fat, which is obviously I think it's their ratio that they use. But you're still going to cook it yourself. So they're not recreating anything at home. What they're doing is they're capitalising on their name and selling you a product that you're going to buy anyway at a premium. It's brilliant. I mean, Franco Manca. They don't make their own pizzas. It's licensed to a company called Rondanini. They're a big Italian importer and a manufacturer, so you're not getting a Franco Manca pizza. You're getting a Rondanini pizza that's been made by somebody else. But I mean, I am cynical when it comes to this.
Charlie,
but it's just great marketing.
What do you think, mate?
I think it's a bit of a problem. I think it's just encouraging people to stay home. I think it's brilliant for them in terms of their business, but isn't the whole idea of hospitality that we want more people coming out?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The thing, the silver lining, I'll finish off what I'm saying, sorry guys, is that the good thing for our industry is that there's no way you can recreate what we do at home. Unless you sell a piece of fish and some flour and water.
There are pre-battered fish out there. There's always been oven chips, but if it's only £3-4, £5 per person rather than spending £10-12 at a fish and chip shop. I think it could drag people out. I think quality goes out the window when value is introduced.
Yeah, I agree. I entirely agree. Yeah. I mean, you can't recreate that restaurant experience at home, no matter how. It's never going to be as good, and you can pretend all you want, but it's good for us because our product's accessible. It's everywhere.
But this is the posher end of the market. People have always cooked at home. Like you can go get I don't know, Indian spices, for example, or paste to make your own curry at home. You can go get Chinese meals and cook them at home, and so there's a lot of things. I think this is just the posher end of the market. I think that I don't think it's as big as what everyone makes out. I just don't see it.
And it seems to be mostly located in Ocado.
Yeah,
Ocado seems to have really jumped upon this really big, because I checked the other supermarkets, it's not even there. But so Ocado have decided that this is what
I'll tell you something. If you wanted to stay home and have a really nice meal, well, obviously most of our meals are cooked at home anyway, so they're all quite nice. But I think that one thing I'd recommend to anybody listening to this is actually the M&S 2-for-1 meals. The M&S do this they do lots of different ones, but they do like a meal for two. They do it for Valentine's. They're really nice.
They are really good
quality. Mm. Yeah. The good thing with fish and chips, generally, if you were going to do it from scratch at home, you'd probably more likely have a fire. And if you do want to pay £2.50 for a dismally battered and breaded product. I think you're right, though. I think I'm not knocking the fact that you were right what you're saying, though. People, if they bought that from a chip shop, they'd fucking throw it at you and slap it around your face. But the fact that it costs £2, or £2-3, they're not really overly bothered. It's just a small meal, keeps them going, because it is literally a 2 to 3 ounce piece of fish breaded with probably 5-6 ounces of chips, Charlie. I don't know.
It'll be something like that. What concerns me is that during COVID, we saw people leave restaurants and come to takeaways. Are we now seeing that people's budgets have been squeezed so much that they're going from takeaways to staying at home and they're fakeaways? I think a general consensus across fish and chip shops is that footfall is down. And are we not worrying about this when maybe we should be? Even though it's a lower quality, we know it's lower quality, but is the fact that it's so cheap keeping people out of takeaways? Are people buying a pizza rather than going to Domino's? Are people buying their fish fingers rather than... or have we always had this problem?
I think the problem's always been there, but there is such a lot of noise at the moment that you don't know what's true. And we're going to talk about it later on, like the general feeling of hospitality. But, David, you'd be shocked to know that the other day I was in a McDonald's and it was really big.
I am not shocked any more about your consumption and visits to McDonald's.
It was not just McDonald's.
How many points have you got now?
Oh, I don't know. I've not been but about 92,000. I was on the other day. It was absolutely rammed. There was a Subway next door, absolutely rammed. The KFC just down the road, absolutely rammed. It's hard to see those places and think, they're all rammed. Loungers Group, we're going to talk about this later, announced mega profits, and yet chip shop seems to be down. And, I saw an article the other day, it said that over the last match of the World Cup, so that semi-final, Domino's Pizza did, was it 20 pizzas a second? So,
they also had a 50% offer on there. They did 50% on every match.
There's always an offer on
but this was a particularly
very good offer, though. Yeah, very good offer. And I think, is that what's drawing people in? Is it offers? Is it meal deals? Is it value? Are people thinking, well, if I'm going to spend X, I'm only going to go where I can get a deal? But on top of that, I'm really seeing, you're looking at the growth of, forget McDonald's for a minute, but the higher value burger offerings like GBK, Wendy's, Five Guys, they're opening a lot of places. And I wonder if people are willing to say, I'm also happy to spend top money, because 18 quid for a burger from Five Guys is top money, it's not cheap. Are they willing to spend it on things that they deem as professionally done, or that is their sole focus? Do we have to be careful in the fish and chip industry that the menus have become too wide? There was a woman in the fish and chip groups, I think she sold the shop recently, but she said that she's got 4 chest free, or had anyway, she sold the shop, she had 4 chest freezers, and they were full of, like, her menu had 200 items, most of them coming out of those freezers. So what is...
And we've talked about, haven't we?
Yeah.
Was it called decision...
Paralysis.
Paralysis. Was it analysis paralysis?
Something like that, yeah.
We talked about that.
But I think the problem is, like, you're no longer a specialist, and are we going to see menus contract a little bit so you can become a specialist again and a purveyor of great fish and chips? You may do kebabs if you're in that area, and you may do pies if you're in that area. But again, is it going to be a great kebab? Is it going to be a great pie and chips? And I'm not saying that wide menus shouldn't exist, but at what point do you rein them in? Because you can make lots of things a bit poor. It takes you away from the range. If you've got to keep walking away from your frying range, go out the back to get something out of the freezer, you're not going to be cooking great fish and chips, are you? You know, unless you've got a little runner. Yeah. You know,
we've spoken of this before, though. I think we went from 60-odd menu items in 2015. I think we're down to about 26, 25. That's including all sources.
I've produced as well. We're in an area where you have to sell kebabs, you have to sell burgers. But what I would say is that we're seen as a fish and chip shop. We're more of a specialist fish and chip shop that happens to do kebabs and burgers. Yeah. And what we're finding is that the kebab and burger sales are dwindling, and the fish and chip more specialist side that we do is growing. And a few years ago, that wasn't the case. The kebab side was a really big part of it. So I think there is appetite for more specialised food offerings.
I just think you should kind of focus. I mean, it's what we've done, obviously. So it's going to be my opinion. Focus on what you do and do it really well, and the customers are going to come and find you, as opposed to trying to be everything to everybody.
I don't think it's anybody's fault per se. I think there was this perception, especially when fish started to go up in price, that we needed to do other things. And I get it, because we wanted customers to keep coming through the door, and you couldn't slap that price increase onto them. However, not everything that you try needs to go on the menu full time. It could go on a daily offer thing or a weekly special thing. You know, when it's gone, and see what it's like. And but I do think that when the wholesalers are coming to you and saying, "Oh, we've got this, I don't know, some new spicy chicken bite. We've got the POS for it. You'll sell loads. The guy down the road selling loads." That it gets into your head that you're missing sales, whereas actually, that's just a strategy to get you to do it. And I think that, for me, what's probably always going to win over the longer period is something that you're making on site, something that only you can do over the longer period. I think short term, the thing with the flashy POS will work, I think short term, but I think those things have a way of falling by the wayside. And
Agreed, yeah.
But I think overall, though, I think customers... I don't know. I think maybe the fish and chip industry is going through a lull. I think that, there seems to be some shops that are doing really well. But again, there's no pattern. This was the same before COVID. But the fake away thing, I think that fish and chips is quite lucky because, if you go to any supermarket, they've got 2 aisles full of ready foods. And that's Chinese, Indian, pizza. And I don't know, I bet you those restaurant owners that own Chinese, pizza and Indian restaurants or takeaways, they must hate it. They must hate walking through the supermarket and seeing buy 3 to make an Indian meal, whatever it is, 3 pots for like £6 or £4.
Yeah, it must frustrate. Yeah, it's got to.
But we're going to get onto sort of like meat quality shortly with one of the articles. But I guarantee you to some degree that some of the meat that's used in those items is better for the most part than what you get in an Indian restaurant, or a Chinese takeaway. I remember meeting a guy that he was a Chinese takeaway supplier, and he was he lived in Nuneaton, but he was from Hong Kong. And we said, "Well, what chicken do you do?" We met him. He was a nice guy. Simon, his name was. And I said, "Like, can we buy some of this chicken for the shop?" Because you wouldn't want it. He goes, "You couldn't use it." He goes, "It's made specifically for Chinese food." He goes, "It's shredded, it's cubed." He goes, "It's usually got lots of stuff in it, probably sugar, brines." He goes, "You just couldn't use it for anything." So, and again, they're using it in their very specific way that we don't know how to use, number one. So I do think that they probably have a lot more competition in the retail sector than what we do.
I mean, as long as I can remember, there's been supermarket pizzas.
Yeah.
As long as I can remember. It's just now someone's decided
you can get
to stick a branding on it,
yeah,
and said, like Pizza Express were the first, Franco Manca's done it. There's been burgers as long as I remember in the aisle. But now we've got a branding on it, and all I see these fakeaways is just exploiting branding, and it's genius. It's making fortunes.
Well, and again, and Harry Ramsden's one of the first at this.
Harry Ramsden's, a dreadfully frozen, battered piece of fish. It was awful. I
think you're being a bit harsh. I said dismally, but you've just said dreadfully. I think
it was dreadful. It was an awful experience.
So we got a nice juicy article that I actually chose and wrote. I had to choose it because we didn't have much to choose from, but it was an opinion article. Labour's victory: what lies ahead for the UK? This is an opinion piece written by me, yours truly, analysing the implications of Labour's electoral victory in the UK, predicting changes in policy and potential challenges. Why did I choose this one? Well, pretty much because there wasn't much else to choose from. Yeah, but I do think it's important. I do think that doesn't matter who won. I think it's important to understand what is going to possibly happen. We find out a lot more. This is recorded on Tuesday. I think we've got the King's speech tomorrow, which is Wednesday, and apparently there's going to be a lot more detail in there. So let's go with David. David, what's your thoughts on what I wrote about this?
So I was on the pod squad the other day, and my opinion between last week and this week hasn't changed. That what you're seeing is a handover of power from one wing to another wing. It's the same bird, left wing, right wing. It's the same bird. They've just handed over. The big stuff you're not going to get a decision on. The little stuff, they're going to tickle around the edges. And, Gary from accounts has just become the leader and is about as interesting as pocket lint. Nothing's going to change. The first thing they did when they got elected was give another, how many hundreds of millions to Ukraine? Which, with no oversight or accountant, none of that. By the way, here's some missiles that you can fire that will hit the Kremlin from Ukraine. Fabulous. Let's just have more war. So the stuff that you are, that will affect your life majorly, you won't have a decision on. Net zero, we're pushing full ahead, cancelling anything oil coming out of the North Sea when energy is already extremely expensive. It's going to get more expensive, and all this is supposed to be a framework to grow the economy. It's not going to happen. David. And I started out in economics. I don't know if it's probably not very well known, and I don't know if I've ever said that. I was heading towards an economics degree. And I didn't go. I went on the software engineering degree. But the first year of my software engineering degree, because I'd already done software engineering and everybody else was catching up, basically the first year was to get everyone up to speed. We could do other options, so I jumped on an economics course. And so I've always been interested in economics, never been interested in politics because it's just theatre for the masses. That's all it is. So we've got some enormous challenges. We've got massive problems with the money supply. We've got massive problems with debt, interest and inflation. I've spoke about it and bored everyone to death about GDP figures and how manipulated they are and how they can buy GDP by printing more money. Nothing will change. You might pay a little bit more tax, you might have a few more labour laws, but generally nothing will change. We're still on the same trajectory it was under the Conservatives. So,
So you've got nothing specific to say about the article itself, though, really?
No.
Okay.
No, I think I'm sorry, but my attention is not on the fact that there's going to be changes. You're going to get changes to your tax code. You're going to probably pay inheritance tax more. You're going to have business transfer tax. So at this moment in time, if you transfer a business into family, there's no inheritance tax.
But again, none of these things.
But none of these things. Going to pay more tax.
But none of these things are what I put in the article, Davey.
No, I know.
Which poses a problem because if I've written something, we're meant to discuss it, and you're telling me about the big things, not the little things.
Yeah. Yes, but I got halfway through, and I just thought
you got angry.
Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. It's like
you can tell. I can see what's happened. He started reading it and be like, "Nope, I'm angry again."
I'm not angry. I am the calmest person you have ever met because I understand the futility of the whole charade.
But the problem is, David, and I discussed this to some degree on the pod squad, is that I understand that you're annoyed on a larger level. I get it, or it pees you off 100%. I get that.
Oh no, I've resolved that.
Or whichever, but. The problem is that the stuff that we have written about is actually going to affect business. That is the truth. And I think that the problem is when we jump over to the larger things, we forget, and all people say, well, I wasn't aware of the little things. And I think this is the problem that's in a way that I think is wrong with politics today, because, I met up with a friend after the election, so about 3 days later on a Sunday. It was at a birthday party at the same Greek restaurant we all went to, and he was happy for the change, and he said, all the big things were peeing him off, etc., etc. But the problem is, when we then started talking about some of the macro issues, these macro topics, he was like, I didn't realise that. Oh, I didn't realise that. Oh, I didn't realise that. And I think the problem is, when nobody realises, they start making the wrong decisions. So just coming back, yes. So obviously, I have read it, but I don't particularly think it's going to make any long-term massive difference to my life. Yeah, okay. I like there's a few things there that's quite good. I like the right to switch off. I've got a friend who works as a software engineer. He's not on call, but his boss will ring him at 3:00 in the morning if he's at the other side of the world and needs technical support. And Jim is supposed to get up and do what he wants. It's very well paid for what he does, but this downtime is minuscule, So I like the little things like that. So that policy,
yeah, that's positive.
That's a German policy.
I know that.
Yeah, the likes of Lidl and Audi have been doing it for years.
Yeah.
What I'd like to know is, would that mean that, let's say Charlie works for me, could I text him at 7:00 just to say, hey mate?
Yes, I imagine you can, but don't expect a response in 10 minutes.
No.
You can send us anything you want out, but just don't expect anything back till the morning.
Yeah. I think, like anything, it's always down to the implementation.
Of course it is.
Well, I think you can do that anyway. Really, I mean, for me, this switch off, if they make that law, it seems really strange to me, because myself, my phone starts to go off about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and it doesn't stop till about 10, 11 o'clock at night. But that's just because, the business, people are in the business until 9:30, and then there's an hour after that where, they might run over, or they get home and then they want to ring me about something. But I tell the staff my phone's going to be on Do Not Disturb from 9, it will be online from 9 a.m. until 10 p.m. And if you speak to me on a Sunday, you will not get a reply from me. And that's just some ground rules that I've set for myself, but for my staff as well, because they don't want me to ring them on a Sunday, and they don't want me ringing them before 9 a.m. They don't want me ringing them past 10 p.m. So for that one, the fact that it will become law and mandatory, it must be an issue, but I don't see why businesses aren't setting these ground rules anyway.
Because businesses aren't setting these ground rules anyway. You've just answered your own question there, Charlie.
No, I think...
There's lots of companies that expect... there's even companies that have tried to pull people back off holiday and said, I expect you to fly home. We have a problem. Come home.
That must be a pretty extreme case. No,
it is.
You're not doing that if you're working at the local Asda stacking shelves, are you?
No, but if you've got a fairly maniacal manager who is, we've had some people come to work for us who have been in hospitality in like the sort of the big bulk catering, so the warehouse catering side of things, working for these big contract companies. And they just say it's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. The amount of time that at 3:00 in the morning, somebody is texting them saying, "There's a shift that starts at 6:00. We need you in." Because obviously these businesses run at warehouse times, which some of them are running 24 hours a day, and a disciplinary when they couldn't get. And that's some of our one of our employees have come from there. So we are focusing on one little thing, but again, all these little changes that they're going to make is great, but. Well, the elephant in the room is that we're on the Titanic, we've struck an iceberg, it's letting in water, and what we're worrying is the shape of the deck chairs on the deck. That's where we're at.
I don't think that's a right analogy, and I'll tell you why. Because...
the ship's not sinking.
No, it's not that. No, I don't think... I think that is very that's catastrophizing the whole thing. I think that, for me, is that... let's say that the ship was sinking, you can't just look the other way and pretend it's not. And I think the thing is here, we're just looking at some of these things. So, for example, I truly believe that hiring staff is now going to become even more expensive than it was, and also a lot more red tape involved. And this is something me and Charlie's been chatting about. I think I've been chatting about you privately, David. We've all been chatting about it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think that it's going to be slower to get rid of people when they don't perform. And the likeliness of people not performing, especially in our industry, because no one's queuing up to work in a chip shop. Because I've said this before, I think people that like fish and chip work like it after they've been involved in it. I don't think anybody thinks, I want to do that job when I leave school. I think they, like you, Charlie, you left school, you left college, you got into the trade. I don't think before you thought...
The intention wasn't to work in a fish and chip shop. It was part-time money when I was 17. Yeah, I mean, I was supposed to go to do a degree in business economics and chose to run a fish and chip shop instead, just purely because I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so I think that what we're going to need to see in terms of the employment side is we're going to have to gear up on our managerial skills, all of us, in every business. I think that that's a weak spot that probably nearly everyone has. And I think staff are going to expect more. And I think the fact is we're going to get probably less talent for our money because now the bar has risen. And I think what will be interesting to see is what figure they actually go for, because... in terms of wages, because when I wrote the article, the estimate from Low Pay Commission was 11.88, and since then I've read another article that says that they may just not ignore it but jump over it because it's good news for them at least, and do what the National Living Wage charity say, which is pay £12 an hour and £13 an hour in London. And then the argument is, do they class 16-year-olds as adults or not? Because there's been a lot of talk about 16-year-olds being able to vote. So I think if an 18-year-old gets an increase to 11.88, that was 40% increase. So what would that be if it was 12, 42, 43% increase? And some young kids get dismally paid, like 16-year-olds get not paid not a lot either. So I think we're going to see at least a pay increase there as well for 16-year-olds. It might not be the same, but I think you'll see a pay increase there.
See, that's one of those things that really, really concern me in the article. I mean, for our older staff, over 21s, there's responsibilities there. And for the odd exception on the 18 to 21-year-olds, there is that responsibility there as well. You know, they might have children. People's circumstances are different. But if you put a blanket policy that you have to pay an 18-year-old 11.88, well, one, why would you employ under 21s who are likely to let you down? Why would you employ under 18s who are likely to let you down? For instance, this week... I've got a 17-year-old lad working for me, and he rang me on Monday and said, look, I'm really sorry. My parents have booked a holiday. I'm going away. I will not be working this Thursday, Saturday, and the following Thursday. And to find cover on a Saturday, it's really difficult. And should he be paid as much as one of your adult staff who are more reliable when... he comes with his own risk? Now, it's not his fault. His parents have booked a holiday. They've booked it with total disregard to me. In fact, what I actually think happened is they booked it and he forgot to tell me, but he won't.
I was just going to say. He
won't admit that.
It's never happened before in the history of things happening,
it must be his parents' fault. That's what he tried to tell me. It must be his parents.
But I do wonder, Charlie, is that a blessing in disguise moving forward? Can you then start treating them like adults? So can we start enforcing these things? Whereas now we'd say, oh, well, they're kids. Whereas after this, can you basically say, well, that's a strike, But
we already have a labour shortage as it is. We struggle to get staff. So are we just tightening our pool that is already pretty tight? And what is actually going to happen is we're going to have to pay this. It's still going to be treated the same by the staff. So the under 18s are going to be paid about 11.88 an hour, but our older staff are going to want 15, 16, 17 pound an hour, and that is going to drive up prices. But on the contrary, if you start paying low-paid workers more money, are they likely to buy more fish and chips?
You sound like you're at the Labour Party now. You do. That's
so. Yeah, I mean, everything that you've just said, you're spot on, Charlie. It's inflationary. Every time you do wages, you get the wages prices spiral. So, big 70s thing. Put the wages up, prices go up 3-4 months later. Then wages have to go up. Now we're in it now because Boris Johnson gave the biggest pay rise 2023. Was that 2023 or 2024? 2024 was the biggest pay rise in the history of, and now there's going to be another one on the back of it. So yeah, your staff bills are going to be probably 20% higher than it was. What's McDonald's going to do? What's the price of their business? Because there seems to be an awful lot of young workers in McDonald's. So everything's going to go up. Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing, and we can wring our hands and worry about that as much as we possibly can, but the money system's broken, and I've talked about this, and it's a boring conversation, and I know we don't want to go there again. But the money system's broken, and that is the massive elephant in the room. If they don't fix that, everything else breaks from it. So we can argue whether we're going to have 18-year-olds or 16-year-olds or 21-year-olds, but if bank accounts are emptied because things go really, really horribly wrong, like they did in Cyprus, that Cyprus was the prototype for the bail-in system. That's been looked at from the banking system.
Yeah, but that's never been repeated, has it? So
not yet.
No, obviously, but everyone says that, not yet. Well, there's been 15 years of that, and
Oh, it's 2013.
Yeah, but what we're saying is Cyprus was a very unique case. Cyprus had lots of money from lots of countries sitting in their accounts doing nothing, and I don't think that's exactly the same as the UK. I think that we can't just use that as a blanket case for everything.
And also, that's not going to solve. We have to deal with that problem if it's coming. Yeah. I mean, the money system might be broken.
I think
you're a very deep thinker, David, and that you could be right. I have no idea, but all I know is that I might have to pay a 16-year-old £12 an hour. That's my concern.
These are the more immediate problems we're going to have to deal with. But coming down the road, we're going to have to deal with a big problem.
But also, if we look a few years ago, the Brexit debate, when they were talking about having less immigration. They were saying then, we are going to pay more on wages moving forward. We are going to be a higher wage nation. And I think this is just coming to fruition. It is not news. It's difficult, but it's not news. I was in Norway the other week, and they were talking about how their wages are a lot higher than the UK. I don't think we'll ever get as high as that.
Do they pay more tax than us?
About 13% more, give or take, on every band.
Well, here's the other thing as well, that there's a limit on what the total tax take before economies people start to basically be disincentivised from working, and that's 40%. We're at 37.9 under the Conservatives, so it depends how far they push us. But somebody was saying it may be 41, 42% the total tax take off, and then we're not talking direct, we're talking indirect as well. I mean, they are going to try these things because this is what left-wing policies dictate. So we're going to see the effect of this.
I don't actually think it's an overly left-wing policy. I think that it goes back to Brexit when they said people will get paid more. I don't think it's left or right. Conservatives basically said that they would do the same thing, as in dropping the bans over the course of their if they won that government. So the only difference is Labour's just putting off the plaster and getting it done faster.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the difference between us is that you're about 2,000 feet looking at it, and I'm at about 40,000 feet looking at a bigger picture. And I can probably see more of the pieces moving because I've studied that. And ever since 2008, when the banking crisis hit the first time, and we just said 0%, 0% interest. And the entirety of your working life, Stelios, as a businessman, when did you start Ceres? What year?
2007.
2000, you've had 0% interest rates all your working life. I started my first business in 1993. I had 16% interest, and it killed us. It was such a disincentive. And that is, interest rates, as much as they say they're going down, aren't. I would argue that business interest rates are a much higher drag on your business and growth than staff costs would be. Because we've never had... in your working career has been built on, effectively, on mine as well, has been built on the charity of foreign countries buying our debt.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, what I'm getting at is that when we're talking about wages, we've got to understand that I don't think this is a surprise. We shouldn't act like it's a surprise. Now, it still doesn't mean it's not going to be difficult. I think it is going to be difficult. The upside is, if everyone does it together, which is good about minimum wages generally, it all moves together. I think customers do buy into that. If Charlie, you had to put a sign up saying, well, I don't really advocate shouting out from the rooftop that you've had increases, but I do think if you were to explain an increase by saying we've had to pay staff more, we celebrate national living wage. I think for the most part, most consumers look at that and think, well, actually, at least someone's winning.
But the last big price rise, we just put a little sign on the counter saying, sorry, the price has gone up. However, it's due to the rise in minimum wage. And if it kicked off, I just used to say, I'm sorry, the wages have gone up because the wages have gone up. And if you want to tell her that she's not worth it, she's about to serve you dinner, so crack on. And it all just seemed to disappear and melt away. There was the whinge stopped, because then it wasn't directed at me, it was directed at all of us then. So it just seemed to diffuse it. So you're right, but it's coming. We're going to have to deal with it. It's coming.
And I also think as well is that something that's the increase in minimum wage brings is if the lowest paid workers get a little bit more disposable income, they're likely to spend it on fish and chips. You know, some of my staff, let's be honest, our staff are lower paid workers. My staff, if I give them an extra £50 a week, they're going to go down the pub, they're going to have a extra pack of cigarettes in the week, and they're going to buy themselves a takeaway. So if that is happening on a huge scale, then it might actually benefit us.
I think you're right. I think there's got to be a benefit there, because I think that, and to some degree, I do wonder if the new government's thinking, well, you know what? What would happen if you give a bunch of 18-year-olds a 42% increase in wage? They're going to spend it. They're not.
It'd be a fabulous experiment, isn't it?
But they're not going to. But what I'm saying is, they're not going to sit there and say. Oh, actually, I'm going to start putting some money aside and paying my mortgage. Or they're not going to. They're going to start. They're going to book a holiday. They're going to do things. And actually, to some degree, that's what you need. This, and I don't think that. I know David's going to say, well, the economy shouldn't be built on consumerism, but I do think that is what they're going to do. I have that feeling that is exactly what they're going to do. So.
Let me just.
That will lift hospitality. Let's be real.
If people go to these restaurants,
if you give 18 to 21-year-olds a 38% pay rise, hospitality. 42% pay rise. Hospitality will thrive.
Yeah, it will, because they're going to go to Wetherspoons, they're going to go to Loungers Group, they're going to go to McDonald's, they're going to come to the Chippy, they're going to go for a kebab. Hopefully, I know it's frivolous, and on the larger scale, David, I know what you're going to say. I can see it. But on a local level,
you know me too well.
But on a local level, if those pubs and restaurants and cafes feel vibrant, then,
it also will push people out of the market, because it's going to. It will, on some struggling businesses, will just be tipped over the edge. Absolutely. Because they won't be able to absorb that cost.
Well, no, but nobody should absorb that cost. That's the point. If you're running a business,
no, I'm saying the customers won't be able to absorb that cost. If those businesses are on the edge, whacking 40% onto your wage bill, that is not going to help you at all.
How do you mean?
If those businesses are already struggling and on the edge, like some pubs are virtually on the point of closing down.
Yeah, but if everyone does it, then why? I think I get what you mean. If it was just pubs that had to do it, or just restaurants that had to do it, but if everyone in the UK has to do it,
but you're assuming it all. Well, I'm saying you're assuming that those businesses that are hanging on are really good.
I just think
so. There's some businesses that are structurally not going to survive, and I think it's just going to push it faster.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean, but that happens with every business. That some will come and go faster or slower. But what I mean is that if national living wage is mandated to go up, it's a rising tide, is what I'm saying.
And then the prices go up on the back of it.
And
it always does. Wages prices spiral, been around since the 70s. Google it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in some ways, some people won't see a benefit. And in other ways, like Charlie said, the people at the bottom will probably see a benefit. They will, the people at the bottom who are probably not paid a lot for the most part will see a nice little chunk.
That's right, for about 3 months, and then the prices catch up, and then we're back to square one. And that is the wages prices spiral. You have to then jump ahead, and the wages go up, and then the prices go up, and it's a spiral, upwards until you get economic growth. Until you start creating new wealth, all you're doing is inflating the economy and prices. It just goes nowhere. So we'll get an effect for 3 months. Until then, your supply chain usually puts the prices up. Then you have to put your prices up, and then they're back to square one. But yes, there probably will be a hit with the 18-year-olds. But how long that effect lasts, is an entirely different matter.
Well, until they're 24, and then.
Well, let's see how much crap they can buy with it,
So moving on, guys, because we've done economics. Charlie chose this article, but again, I don't think it was because it was his favourite. There just wasn't a lot. Coffee prices set to rise for another year because they did last year, Lavazza warns. Lavazza warns of continued increase in coffee prices due to various global factors impacting consumers and businesses. I don't actually see this as a big problem because their customer base do not give a shit. They will spend £6 on a watery coffee from Starbucks. What do you guys think? Charlie, why did you choose this?
Well, I picked this article on because I know all three of us love coffee. We probably spend far more than we should on coffee as well. I bought some coffees from a Costa machine. We got a Costa machine at the petrol station where my shop is, and it was £3.70 for a large. And I just have a black Americano. It's as simple as it gets, and I couldn't believe how expensive it was. And that machine is non-stop all day. It's so
Can I just ask you a question, Charlie?
Yes.
How much is a large chips in your shop?
Well, this is the point I was going to get at. A regular bag of chips is £3.29 for me, and it's a 14 to 16 ounce chip. So it's a good old portion of chips.
So you can fill your belly with some potatoes that have had a huge prep time and a long route to market and care and growth and oil and staff. Or you can push a button on a coffee machine that a human hand's not touched it since it left the roastery and spend the same amount.
Yeah, I suppose there's a few hands touched it before it's got to the machine, though. Someone's dropped it off, someone's delivered. You can say that about any product. Every product's got a supply chain.
Well, it's vendor.
It's just that I'm literally peeling the potatoes myself.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting how people will spend £3.70 on a coffee. And you said about an eyelid. I've batted an eyelid at the price of it. And it just makes me think, will there be a price cap on coffee that will start to put people off? And like Stelios said, I'm not sure there is. I think they will just go up and up and up. And the interesting thing I found about that article was, why can't we do that in fish and chips? Why is there is a ceiling? We all know there's a ceiling. We're getting mighty close to it if we've not already hit it. But coffee just seems to be able to fly up at whatever increment it feels like.
I think it's genius. I think that in this country anyway, Starbucks and Costa Coffee have changed the landscape. I don't know where exactly they copied it from, but from I don't think it's actually American. I think that it's all a variation, a copy of the Europeans. And I think that this is why we see pubs closing. And I know this sounds crap, but you go to a coffee shop, it's full of people. They're bustling. There's loads of people in there. You've got people using it as their makeshift offices. I went to a Starbucks in Stroud, and I walked upstairs, and there was a whole bank of like tables and chairs, and there was like 6 people just using each one as their own little office. I think
that's why your coffee's expensive.
Possibly, that doesn't help.
You're covering the cost of office space for remote workers,
and I think the society has changed. I think people rely less of meeting at the pub. I think those that like sports or darts will go to the pub. I don't think pubs have finished either. I think that pubs are evolving into new pubs in different places. There's just as many pubs opening as there is closing. Maybe not as many opening, actually, but there is new pubs opening. You know, you see them in newer locations. But I do think that, on the whole, people are drinking less beer and drinking more coffee. And I think they see coffee as a society thing. And, it's quite social, shall I say, just like pubs were. So I think people are willing to spend the money on coffee. And also, how many of these coffees are actually coffee? You've got all these syrupy things. They're like desserts, They're like, So I do think that... I think they could probably go more, if I'm honest. I think that... What is it now, an average coffee? I don't know. I'm like...
£3.50.
£3.4 quid, something like that.
But I just think that we're all sort of obsessed with coffee because we like the caffeine rush. And I'll drink coffee from like the bottom end to the top end. I don't think I'm really a snob, but I don't like.
I am.
You are, obviously.
I'm a coffee snob.
But
I am.
I don't like burnt coffee, which is something I don't like, and I hate it when I get all that really tanningy flavour from the machine's not been clean. But I think for the most part, I think the British are now coffee connoisseurs. They want coffee. They want it all the time. And I think they are willing to spend £5, £6. I think they'll struggle a bit when they get to like the sevens, but I think, but you've got to remember they're big cups. At £7, it's a big cup.
Big cup of water.
Yeah, it probably is.
30 grams, 40 grams of coffee, tops. Yes. The rest of it's water and milk.
Yeah. Look, I've always said for a long time, the most expensive inputs for coffee, a drink of coffee, is the cup, and the VAT. Yeah? Those two things. Because if you think a cut on VAT, let's say it's £5, that's a nice contribution to HMRC. You know, and that's why I think there's a reason why you see coffee shops everywhere, because they're almost like betting shops. They're just everywhere. They're ubiquitous. Like, you know.
But the other thing your article said was that people are drinking more coffee at home as well, and they're going down the route of going more artisan and making it themselves and buying specialist machines. And I know, David, that you obsess about it.
I could talk. Yes.
Let's not.
I got a nice coffee machine for my 50th birthday. It was either that or a nice watch.
So you've had it 12 years.
I've had it 3 years and a bit. It was either a watch, which was what he'd probably hit me over the head and take it off me. I thought they can't really take a coffee machine out, can they?
Well, they probably could not have heard this.
Well, yeah. And obviously it's not just a coffee machine. You've got to have a grinder that goes with it. And that grinder can't be cheap. It's got to be a conical, flat bird, SSP, high speed, proper, fine ground, zero retention. You'll drive yourself crazy. But yeah, I mean, Is
that what happened?
Yes. Yes, I became a little obsessed with chasing the... But when you get it right, and you have this little thing called a God shot in your espresso, and you can taste all the berries and all the acidity and all the flavours, it's so rewarding. It's so lovely.
You wouldn't...
I don't drink Starbucks anymore because I can't. Because I only really drink espresso. So when I want something like a little bit longer, I'll put hot water in it. But I don't. Most of the coffees in like Starbucks and Costa, it's really, if you're going to have an espresso, it's like battery acid anyway. If it's not set up.
Would you not have a Nescafe at home?
No. Wash out your mouth, sir, with something quality.
But you can see, how the supermarket shelf has really expanded. We've gone from heat dried coffee, which was Nescafe essentially, to now freeze dried coffees. Yeah. Is it Azera? There's another one begins with an M. I forgot, but So I think on every level, coffee in every format is getting better in every format.
It is, and it's getting harder to grow from what I'm reading.
Yeah, and
I mean, Arabica's like the one that's the prized one. Robusta's the more low altitude.
It's high volume.
Yeah, and the Brazil's had a big problem with dry weather. Although apparently it was raining last week, so the coffee prices have come down. I was looking at the commodity prices last night. Yeah, I mean, changing weather patterns. El Nino has a massive effect because that's now in the South Americas. It's so delicate to grow. 20 degrees, it doesn't grow. It's 20 degrees, and it's like us. It's like me. I like 20 degrees in the shade. I mean, I must be coffee in a past life.
I think it's going to be one of those products. I did a podcast with a guy from a coffee supply company years ago, and I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, look, Rainforest Alliance is no good. He goes, it caps the amount of money these farmers get, because it sounds good. Oh, they get £1.50 a kilo or something, or they're guaranteed a wage of $3 a day. Whereas actually, if you had a self-certification, they could probably make double that, triple that. So I do think that... it's like chocolate, isn't it? All of these things. What are people willing to spend on chocolate? I think that coffee has found...
Have you tried melting your chocolate into your coffee?
I've seen the videos, but nice. But I do think coffee has become... It's almost like that guilty pleasure. Like we reward ourselves with it. And I think that's probably why we haven't managed to do that in fish and chips. I think that burgers have done it. Going back to burgers, I think burgers has become a guilty pleasure. Oh, I fancy a burger.
The good thing is you can sit and have 2 or 3 coffees. You can't have 2 or 3 runs of fish and chips. Yeah. You can't have 2 or 3. So some people probably can, but have 2 or 3 burgers. But you would sit and if you're you're going out with somebody having a little meeting, might have 2 or 3 of them, 2 or 3 drinks while you're there, which is it's a great business model. We should be doing it, shouldn't we?
It's like any liquid. It's like any liquid. You see,
but if you look, we're talking about prices rising, but the soft commodities are all rising. I mean, we've since 2020 we've been 12% year on year. I think soft commodity indexes are just pretty much up. Soft commodities, grains, agricultural, animals, stuff like that, stuff that you consume and stuff that you eat. So, it's just following the trend. But I think it's obviously with the weather patterns changing, whether that's man-made or natural, who knows. I think commodities generally are going to get more expensive, so coffee is going to get more expensive.
One thing I'd like to see when it comes to commodities, though, David, forget about the weather and all that for a moment. I'd like to see less of it going into... I'd like to see food grown for food and not used to make ethanol and things like that. I think that and I think that's probably what we're going to see a lot of with the prices going up. I see a lot of it coming back.
Well, you'll know more than I do, but the amount of land that's been put aside for sugar beet, is it willow that the burning power stations? Is it willow?
Not sure, mate. Probably.
Huge amounts of land have been taken out from like wheat and other sort of edible crops to grow power station. Is it willow? I think it's willow that they're growing in fields, and then that goes into a sort of into the furnaces and gets burned. You're right. Yeah.
I think we've completed that one.
We love coffee. Can we just have a podcast talking about coffee?
We could. I'm sure that could be done. So David chose this article: Tesco suspends pig supply amid disturbing welfare violations. David, what... actually, let me just do the summary. Tesco suspends... Did I read this already? Tesco suspends a pig supply following revelations of severe animal welfare violations, highlighting the issues in supply chains and ethics. David, why did you like this one?
When I saw this, it really upset me, actually. Because my uncle in Cyprus had a pig farm, so that was his business. And when I was a kid, we used to go we used to spend sort of, we used to go for 3 or 4 weeks at a time. And after the first week or two of swimming, you get really bored, don't you, as a kid? Well, I did. So I ended up hanging around the pig farm and, in the maternity units. And Cyprus pork was tremendously high welfare in them days, before the European Union came along and they had to put lots of vaccines and additives into the food and what have you. But it was phenomenal. And watching a little pig being born and then seeing it grow for a few weeks and then picking it up, it's lovely. It's a lovely thing. And then when you I read this article, and it's just like, okay, they've got 12,000 pigs on this farm. It's a lot of pigs. They're a huge supplier, and what their products is going to end up is getting chopped up and stuck in a diced pork. It's not great welfare, but picking pigs up and slamming against a wall, I didn't even think that was. I think that's called thumping. I mean, one thing about this podcast, it does give you the opportunity to learn more, which I'm very grateful, because I wouldn't have a reason to sit and read this stuff otherwise. So you do learn a lot when you start to dig into these stories, but it's just shocking. But on Red Tractor Assured Farm, does that now not work?
No, Red Tractor.
Have they missed that?
There is a misconception with Red Tractor. Red Tractor is probably the lowest grade you can get in the UK.
Okay,
it's pretty much. From my research back in the day, so about 2-3 years ago, Red Tractor basically means it's grown in the UK or reared in the UK. That is it. So it's probably lower than the RSPCA approved. It's the lowest of the low. It just means it was grown in the UK. That's it. It's a standard.
I mean, they were talking about pigs being crushed, but you've watched Clarkson's farm, haven't you? Where he's had the pigs, and he created that ring to stop them crushing. Yeah. And they said, "Oh, it happens. Pig crushing happens. The mothers lay down and they kill pigs." And obviously, but now let's just flip it. This is horrible, and you hope that when you go and buy meat, or I do, we kind of said a few years ago, I've spoken about this before, we're going to eat less meat, but we're going to eat better meat. We're going to spend more money to make sure that animals had a good life. And the company the outfit that's blown the whistle on it is a company called Animal Equity UK. Now, go into their website, and they are very pro-veganism. They want to put plant-based offerings in. They want the government to stop dairy farming and mandate plant-based alternatives. And then you've got a whole argument about soya and everything else, and the production of almond milk. All that. That's another argument. But their vision is that we aren't going to, the animals are respected and protected. So basically, not eaten. So, they've got skin in the game to make sure that these guys look as bad as they possibly can. But has Tesco changed its business model where we all go back to the horse meat scandal where they just used to say, we want a burger for a penny, and how you get there is up to you?
I think one of the things is, I think number one, I'd like to say that I spend a lot of time talking to farmers or being on farms, and actually what you find is that the UK is ahead of Europe. I don't care what country, point me to any country, the UK is ahead of all of them. This is horrendous, but they've got 12,000 animals, like you said.
Big farm.
It's a big farm, and this has happened to one or two. Yesterday I was watching Jeremy Clarkson's farm myself. I'm not an expert, although we like to watch it and think we are. A pig ate its own. Yeah?
Yeah.
So pigs will eat humans. They'll eat anything. You put it in front of them. So now obviously this charity or organisation, they do want it to look bad. And you know what? They should make them look bad because they finally got some proof. And hopefully it makes Tesco do something about it. Now, Tesco is also BRC accredited.
What's BRC?
BRC, British Retail Consortium accredited, which means the farmer will be, Now, I think the problem is, I don't actually think the problem is as big as what is portrayed. I don't think so. And I think that I have made a similar decision to you, David, in that I've chosen to eat better meat, but I've not chosen to reduce my intake, as you all know, on a Sunday when I send you photos. Yeah?
Yes.
And
I'm still waiting for the invite, by the way.
One day it will happen.
One day.
When I have a bigger garden.
Okay.
And maybe if I ate less, I'd have a bigger garden. But I do think that, for the most part, nobody likes seeing an animal being crushed. Especially a little baby one. It makes people feel... But if it was a big one, I don't think people would have much of a problem. But, you know what I mean? Like an adult animal. It's always the cute animal that everyone feels for.
What shocked me is when I started looking at thumping.
Yeah, well, it's allowed, though.
It's allowed. That's
it is to 4 weeks old. Yeah. If you can't euthanize that pig any other way, pick it up by its back legs and slam it against a wall. I mean, it's just like, really?
Yeah.
I think we don't realise. Some people don't want to know where the meat comes from.
No.
And some people don't know. They have no concept. They think it comes off a shelf. There's no idea of process. But when you start look at that factory they put in China, 28 stories of a pig farm high, which is that the pigs, are grown and they live in a 28-story building for the entirety of their life, and then they're slaughtered and off they go. We aren't doing that here. We generally, and we're surrounded by farms, and we went to see the farm up where we're getting our pork from for our sausages when we finally get around to doing it, when we get rid of all the damn problems we've found with it in our place. And the guy, was passionate about his product and he loved his animals, and but at the end of the day, it is a product. We are growing a product.
But even that guy would do something that you will find horrendous.
If I stood there long enough, I would say Jesus, you can't do that. So it's until you start peeling back, opening the curtain and start having a peek in, you think, I'm glad I'm working with fish as opposed to pigs.
I'd imagine, and then I'm going to say this now, let Charlie get in. I'd imagine that 99.9% of anything Tesco sources, not sauce, is much better than anything that's coming in for a lot of the stuff for food service, because you've got chicken from Thailand, chicken from Brazil, beef from other countries. I think anything that's coming mass produced from another country is just not going to be great.
Yet Tesco still do fall down in some
they're
places.
Human,
they're a huge company.
Yeah,
though.
And the horse scandal wasn't technically their fault. Know, there were BRC. You know whose fault it was?
Go on.
It was the Cypriots' fault, because the Cypriots, when they came into...
How? What?
I know. Because and a guy went down for it. He was getting... So when Romania entered the European Union, they basically banned travel with donkeys and all that. So basically, all of that...
No salami then?
Yeah, so all of that meat went through Cyprus, or the certificate did. Yeah, Cypriots gave them a certificate to say that it was good quality beef, when really it was horse and donkey.
Well, my late father-in-law, Steve, was a food safety inspector for a company called EFSIS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an accreditation company.
Yeah, he was a butcher and then worked for EFSIS and went to the slaughterhouse where they were sticking horses in I'm not going to say where it is, I'm going to get sued.
Well, you're allowed to eat horse.
But he knew years ago he said that years ago that abattoir should have been shut down, and that was the abattoir that was cutting anything, horse, goat, whatever, into the burgers. They were making burgers for Tesco, so I don't know if it wasn't coming.
Well, no,
the stuff that I'd seen was coming in through the UK. It was slaughtered here.
It wouldn't be the abattoir's fault unless the abattoir signed it off as something else.
Yes, they did.
Well, that's different. So if they just, because there's no law, you can eat all these animals. Like, you know, in France they eat horse meat. It's not the problem.
That's right. But if you're going to buy a beef burger, you don't want
the problem.
a horsey beef burger, do you? You don't want it running in at Kempston last week and then on your plate this week.
Look, we've eaten animals that we have no idea we've eaten, guys. Let's be honest.
We have a road trip that we are going to do, apparently, that we're going to eat some rather strange things in the north of Greece.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry,
I really can't remember what it's called.
I thought you meant we were going Yorkshire.
No, Greece.
So, Charlie, what do you think about this, mate?
Obviously, the things that have happened on that farm and they've found are terrible. This thumping, I can't believe that it is even something that they can do. However, I do worry that whenever I see an article like this or something like this, it's going to be similar to what we saw with Seaspiracy, whereas not everything's quite as accurate and not everything's quite as bad as it seems. And is it something that we really need to worry about overly much? Don't get me wrong, thumping is terrible. Like from what we could see on that, it's not going to be. It's a really bad thing. But to what proportion is it? It's definitely true that we've seen the evidence. But like you say, there's 12,000 animals on there. Has it happened to 2? Has it happened to 10? Has it? What percentage? In every business, there's always going to be things that people aren't happy about or right. And you know, how many of us in fish and chips? How many shops can we say always sell the right species? How many shops know exactly what meat is going into their kebabs each week? The sausages that we sell, are we
hit the nail on the head there, Charlie?
Yeah.
Pandora's box there, mate.
Like, whilst it is going to be terrible, like Stelios said, it's probably as good as it's going to get, or it's significantly better than the vast majority of the world. So
I'd imagine
to say that I'm not too worried about it.
Charlie, based on what you just said, I'd imagine that if you rang up a kebab supplier and they found lamb in the kebab, they would think it was a foreign body, then investigate. But there was an article with it recently, I think we spoke about it on the last one, David, where the Turkish government, the Turkish Kebab Association was arguing with the German Kebab Association about who invented kebab.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And it was part of the Germans said it was some guy in Berlin, opposite the Bahnhof that first of all came.
And the difference is in Germany they figured out how to make it very efficiently. It's no lamb, it's beef and chicken and whatever. And in Turkey, it's still lamb. We do need to go to Turkey if we're going to travel. If we're going to go Greece, we've got to go Turkey as well.
Yes.
So the next one really isn't an article. This is more of a general feeling. I've pieced together a few articles here, and like I said earlier, guys, there's a bit of a mismatch because we're hearing about how hard it is in hospitality, and then essentially we've put like 4 or 5 articles out. And it is record year for loungers. I think you sent me that, Charlie, in the first place. Steakhouse chain Hawksmoor explores 100 million valuation sale. Pizza Pilgrims profits soar and they've got a strategic expansion. Itsu setting expansion plans. You know, McDonald's are sort of doing well in the UK. Wendy's are doing really well locally in the UK. You know, all of these big expansion plans. What are we seeing? Like, what is it? Why is it that we're seeing lots of growth in some sectors, or what feels like no growth in our sector? Is it their narrative? Is it the fact that they're just pushing a story better, or is it? Or are we not seeing the figures from this industry, or is it not as bleak as what we think, or is someone lying? What do you think, guys?
Well, what I thought was interesting was with those, when you look at the actual figures in that article, there's a lot of revenue growth, not necessarily a crazy amount of profit growth. So the Pizza Pilgrim ones, for instance, their net profit went from I think it was 0.3 million to 0.7 million, but their revenue was 28 point something million. If you had a fish and chip chain doing 28 point something million, you'd expect their net profit to be more than 2.5%. And it's the same with the loungers. They're growing really rapidly, but I'm not sure that their net profit is growing rapidly. So, and I think that's perhaps the actual image of hospitality at the minute, is that we're all getting more revenue, but not necessarily more profit. And there is room for growth, but it's a different type of growth than we were perhaps used to before. With more growth came a significant more profit. However, it's only the 1% and 2% now. So I think there's a lot of pressures on hospitality, but it just shows that there's still the market there and there's still the demand there.
David, sir?
I think the common thread that runs through this is that all these companies that you've seen growing at this crazy rate are private equity backed. So these are all vehicles for private equity. So Loungers, Lion Capital, huge private equity company, and a company called Slater Investments. I mean, I've been in. I didn't realise I'd been in one actually, but I took my mum to an eye appointment. She had to have a specialist scan, and it was it was a Vision Express somewhere in Stocksbridge. Sorry, guys, let me just stop. Phone's ringing. No. So I went into Loungers, and it was. I thought it was they'd been to a church jumble sale, and after I'd been in there an hour, and I sort of looked at where I am and Googled it. I'm thinking, Christ, this group's massive, but it must have cost them a fortune to make it look so shabby inside. It was weird. It was a weird vibe in there. It was like weird mismatched tables and chairs. And it was really average, and the coffee was really average, but it was bloody expensive. But yeah, so
I've had a different experience of Loungers. Me and my girlfriend will go to one quite often. There's one at Foss Park in Leicester, and there's one in Hinckley, and thought the food was good. Thought the service was impeccable. The design, whilst not to my taste, my girlfriend loved it. I think it was very Instagrammable. I think that's the theme with all these businesses.
She is Canadian, though.
Yeah, I mean that will make a difference. I think a key theme with all these businesses, they're very Instagrammable. The menus are reasonably simple, and
yeah. Sorry, guys.
And all these businesses have been set up with quite low costs. I mean, the Pilgrims is quite a low. The design's not crazy. The same with the Loungers, whereas the design's not crazy. The kitchens aren't huge. They're not heavily reliant on equipment, and they're just going at a pace. And I think, especially with the Loungers, they've hit a lot of. It's a nice place to go as a family and a couple, and they do the bottomless brunch thing. So they're hitting a lot of people out of those places.
I reiterate what Charlie said. I've not had a bad meal at any of the Loungers, to be honest. It hits the spot, nice burgers. You're not going there for fancy food, though. I mean, I almost feel like it's, in a good way, it's like Little Chef 2.0. Like, they're everywhere. They're in better places, better food credentials, better drink credentials. I think it's food for every person. It could also be, I guess you could probably see it as an older person's McDonald's to some degree, couldn't you, Charlie?
And what Loungers have done is and this is perhaps why the fish and chips growth is stagnated compared to somewhere like this. They've nailed the lunchtime offering. Their brunch and lunch offering. They do a great breakfast, they do a good brunch, and they do a good lunch. Their evening trade perhaps isn't where it should be, but then they've gone into cocktails and tapas type meals, small plates. But what they've really nailed is their lunch and brunch offering. And that is what a lot of fish and chip shops have lost over the last few years.
Yeah. I think the sentiment is that Greggs have probably chipped away at fish and chip lunches a lot. But actually, I think it's just everyone. I think every business has chipped away at their lunch times. And also there's less manual labour around now, which was really good for fish and chips. I think that was like, you need manual labourers or firemen, all these, like, they'd come to fish and chip shop and eat.
They needed filling, didn't they?
Yeah. Whereas...
But yeah, I mean, it's like, to say I must have got I must have caught them on a bad day because I've never been there. I've never been there before, but it was busy.
Going back to your point, David, about...
Capital.
The capital.
Private equity. Hawksmoor, Graphic Capital.
Yeah, that's true.
And they pushed for an IPO and they couldn't make the IPO.
But that alone doesn't make them successful.
It doesn't. But if you've got a venture capital company that's willing to put 35 million quid in,
absolutely. But
you're going to have a damn sight more chance of succeeding than trying to grow your business off profit.
It will give you more runway, and it gives you a lot more of a runway, let's say. But obviously, they want to see growth. They want to see restaurant openings. But Hawksmoor, you can't say they've expanded ridiculously fast. They've been going at it for like 15 years, plugging away. You know, they've kept quality at the top of their agenda.
It is phenomenal.
You know, and it is. You know, I've never had a bad meal there, and it's not overly expensive given the fact that they're all in like city centre locations, mostly London, New York, Manchester. So, but what I'm getting at is that, you know, if it was that easy just to get venture capital or angel capital, whatever, just capital, why haven't we seen a fish and chip shop do that? Why haven't we seen a fish and chip shop say, here's my offering?
I think that what they're doing is very specific. I mean, so pizzas can be, pizzas have got a decent shelf life, hasn't it, in terms of your product, where fish is extremely short. You know, you get fish wrong, you get it really wrong. Whereas you can put steak into an Asia for 35 days and it will pretty much stay where it is. You know, so I guess the difficulty that we've got in our industry is that our product is so delicate and so finicky, and the time between it being perfect and bad is fairly short.
Yeah.
That you'd have to work really hard at scaling your business up. And why would a venture capital company sort of take the risk on expanding out a fish and chip shop chain when they can just push 3.5 million quid into a pizza chain and get 50 million back in 5 years? It's just, you know, it's risk reward, I guess.
Yeah.
So the stuff that gets scaled up will get scaled up easily. I mean, lounges is, you know, I when I started Googling and having a look the other day, couldn't believe how many sites they've got.
Yeah, no,
it's unbelievable.
I follow the MD or chairman on Twitter, and I think they've got 3 openings this week alone.
Yeah.
So, and they probably had 2 last week. So,
yeah.
And like Wetherspoons, they're taking on, for the most part, very dilapidated sites. You know, when I was in, is it Barry? Is that seaside in Wales?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I was there, and I actually...
Did you go on Barry Island?
Yeah, I did. I went to see a shop there. And,
lovely.
And they've literally bought these dilapidated toilets that no one's doing anything with. No one's weeding them for 20 years. They look... well, probably have, actually. But they look absolutely terrible. They're falling down. They've built them, rebuilt it. So this is one thing I do believe the likes of Loungers and Wetherspoons just don't get enough credit, in my opinion. They do genuinely fix up a lot of these old properties. They're buying old cinemas in very dilapidated areas again. And I do think they're doing quite good. But I think one of the key things, this narrative, it all comes back to the narrative. These companies have also got PR companies that are really promoting this as well.
And the push is to increase the value of these companies. Yeah. And the good way to have the value of the company increased is obviously great PR stories. Yeah. Look at our growth. And, you know, and I think who's going to IPO at the moment? There's somebody that's pushing for IPO, and I can't remember. Is it Itsu? Itsu are pushing to IPO. I mean, it's just is that Julian Metcalf from?
Yeah, well, from who was at
Pret a Manger? Yeah. I think that's his. They're now building that up to float it publicly, and that's Bridgepoint Capital, huge American company, and that's the idea. So I suppose having this. Look, this is tremendous. We're doing well. Doesn't do them any harm when they're floating.
But to be fair, like if you look at Pizza Pilgrims, they do a good job. Like I've had a burger there. Sorry, a pizza there. I was thinking of the burger that I had down the road because I had a really good burger down the road from there called Bleecker Burger. If we're ever in London, we go to Bleecker Burger. But you know, Pizza Pilgrims, they're using good quality ingredients. So I think they are doing it right. I do think so. And I think having that runway, that extra money, probably allows them to not have to make a lot of short-term decisions. I'm convinced that a lot of the fish and chip shops we see open struggle very quickly because they haven't got enough runway, enough money, cash flow.
Yeah,
and I think that makes us... We've all done it. We've all had a business and thought, shit, I haven't got enough here. And then we have to start making decisions. So whereas having that sort of money behind you, like a decent wedge, just helps you smooth out over those difficult times, so you don't have to make difficult... Well, no, you still have to make difficult decisions, don't get me wrong, but you don't have to make them as fast.
But when you get venture capital coming in board, they take, obviously, might take 51% of your company, but they also install all their professionals on your board. So you go from being a single small business owner doing everything to all of a sudden having... financial expertise, marketing expertise, because it's in their best interest for you to do well.
And I guess that could bring pros and cons, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what did they say on Dragon's Den when they famously said, what is it, 5% of a little bit 5% of a huge company is much better than having 100% of a little company.
Yeah, probably.
And so you're going to have to give up control for you to for us to invest. So you're also in that incubator group where you get access to lots of other things in their incubator group, which I think Priode was a good example in our industry, that they got access to all the servers, all the payment systems, and QuickServe itself. Obviously merging them together. So yeah, I think that, if you're going to grow a business and if you want to make it into a multiple site and a national chain, you need to get yourself venture capital involved.
Charlie,
it's huge amounts of money floating around there looking for a home.
Yeah, I think one thing to perhaps take from it as well is, have we been so used to moaning for the last few years that things are actually a little bit better than we realise? Food costs seem to have stabilised. Energy costs have stabilised. Wages have gone up, don't get me wrong, but we all have sort of adjusted for that. Are things actually better now than they were 2-3 years ago? And we're seeing that growth because of that. And we're all just still moaning because we're so in the habit of moaning. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but my customer numbers are up this year compared to what they were last year. Fish prices are down, oil's stable, wages have obviously gone up, but energy prices are stable. But I still feel like I moan a lot. Are we just such a habit of moaning that we've reached the point that actually we are growing as an industry again?
Sure. Right, as a fish shop owner, to have a good complaint. It's just passing on the whinge, isn't it? That you get. I think what we are. If you see commodities rising, you look at economics. They have an S curve where things go up, they stabilise, they don't tend to go down, and then everything else kicks in. They tend to go up again. So they're waiting for an uptick in commodities again. I believe, from what I've seen, from what I've read, because I'm very interested in trading options on commodities, so I keep an eye on that market. So. I think we're on the flat bit of it before things start to move again, but from everything's sort of slowed down in the world in terms of sort of the geopolitical. Everyone's calmed it down a little bit. We're still lobbing bombs at each other, but sort of the effects of that have been absorbed into the system. We're just waiting for something else to happen now, I guess. So I don't know. I think we're in a bit of a flat spot, and it's probably we've got an ability to take a breath and see where we've been and where we're going, but yeah, we do whinge too much, don't we? We are very negative as an industry.
You two are, yeah.
But I think it's. I think there's lots of positives to take out. I mean, we're still here, we're still alive, we're still kicking, we're still turning money over, aren't we? We're still paying his bills at the end of the week, so not all can be bad.
Well, on that note, chaps, Charlie, thank you for your time today.
Bro, thank you very much.
David, thank you once again for your time, Squire. And
it's been awful.
I'm just looking at Charlie's face. I feel for him. And it's been brilliant. David, I hope you have a lovely holiday next week.
Yeah, and I will indeed. I'll certainly try my best.
Yeah, and we'll talk again, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.